The Killer Who Terrorized New York, the true story of David Berkowitz. Before we begin, subscribe if you dare, because once you enter this story, there's no going back. It was July 29, 1976, the kind of summer night that made New York City buzz with restless energy. Bronx streets shimmered under the dim glow of streetlights, and couples sought refuge in the quiet corners of parked cars. But that night, the silence shattered with two deafening gunshots that echoed down Pelham Bay's narrow lanes. When the police arrived, they found two young women slumped in their car, one alive but barely breathing, the other gone before help could arrive. A .44 caliber revolver had been used. No robbery, no signs of struggle, just sudden, brutal precision. Detective Joe Coffey stood by the car, his cigarette trembling as he studied the shell casings glinting under the flashing lights. "This isn't random," he muttered. "This feels personal." But the truth would prove far darker than anything the NYPD had seen before. At first, the city tried to move on. Murders in New York weren't rare. It was the 1970s, and the city was already teetering on the edge of bankruptcy and chaos. But when another shooting struck Queens months later, under eerily similar circumstances, patterns started to emerge. The same .44 caliber weapon, the same type of victims, young women, often with long brown hair, often caught in quiet, isolated spots. Panic began to stir, though few wanted to admit it. By Christmas 1976, the killer had struck again. This time, Donna Loria and Jody Valenti were sitting in their car outside Donna's Bronx home. A man approached, pulled out a revolver, and fired without a word. Donna died instantly. Jody survived. Her statement was all the police had to go on. A man in his 20s or 30s, with dark hair, heavy build, and eyes that didn't look normal. The description, iron wasn't enough. The city had a ghost, one who hunted and vanished without a trace. The press was slow to notice at first, but by early 1977, after another double shooting in Queens, the whispers began. Is there a serial killer in New York? The idea was too horrifying for most to accept, but detectives couldn't ignore the evidence. Ballistics matched. The same .44 Bulldog revolver, the same execution-style method. The NYPD formed the Omega Task Force, a specialized unit dedicated to hunting down the man now dubbed the .44 caliber killer. Then came the letters. On April 17, 1977, a letter was found near the body of a young couple murdered in the Bronx. Written in scrawled, taunting handwriting, it began, "I am deeply hurt by your calling me a woman hater. I am a monster. I am the son of Sam." The words dripped with mockery and menace, as if the killer was playing a game with the entire city. He talked about his father, Sam, and his commands to kill. He signed off with a warning, "I will be back. I will be back." The letter sent shockwaves through New York. Every newspaper printed it. Every radio station spoke his name. People locked their doors, cut their hair short, avoided night drives, and stayed home after dark. Fear was everywhere. Women who looked like his victims began dyeing their hair or wearing wigs. Taxi drivers refused to go to certain neighborhoods. Couples stopped parking in cars altogether. The city that never sleeps had finally gone quiet, because now it was too afraid to. Meanwhile, Detective Coffey and the Omega Task Force worked tirelessly, tracing every clue, every car, every possible link. They interviewed gun owners, analyzed letters, and brought in psychologists who tried to build a profile. "He's organized," one profiler said. "He wants to be recognized, to be seen as powerful." The letters? They're not random. They're theater. And theater it was, for the son of Sam was performing for millions. Every attack came with escalating bravado. Every message was more cryptic, filled with symbols and biblical references. He mentioned demons, dogs, and voices. He was, in his mind, not a man, but a soldier in a dark mission. The public demanded answers. The mayor, Abraham Beame, went on television pleading for calm. "We will find him," he said. But the killer only grew bolder. In June 1977, another letter arrived at the Daily News, addressed to columnist Jimmy Breslin. It read, "Hello from the gutters of NYC, which are filled with dog manure, vomit, stale wine, urine, and blood." He mocked the police again, daring them to catch him. He called himself the Duke of Death, Mr. Monster, and finally, Son of Sam. Breslin published parts of the letter, and overnight, Berkowitz's twisted words made headlines across the globe. New York had never seen anything like it. The killer wasn't just murdering people, he was controlling the city itself. Detective Coffey stayed late that night, staring at the crime board plastered with photos, maps, and red strings connecting boroughs. "He's not hiding anymore," Coffey said softly. "He's enjoying this." Then came July 31st, 1977, another night, another parked car, another double shooting. But this time, a witness saw something crucial. A suspicious man near a yellow Ford Galaxy parked illegally near the scene. The car got a parking ticket. The killer's arrogance had made his first mistake. As the task force traced the vehicle registration, a name surfaced: David Berkowitz, a postal worker from Yonkers. The file noted complaints from neighbors, strange noises, talk of demons, and a habit of writing bizarre letters. Coffey leaned back in his chair. Could this be him? They sent surveillance to his apartment on Pine Street. On August 10th, officers watched as Berkowitz left his building and got into his car. They approached quietly. On the dashboard lay a .44 caliber revolver, and inside his car, a letter addressed, "To the police, I am the son of Sam." As they read him his rights, Berkowitz smiled and said calmly, "Well, you got me." But as Coffey stared at him through the squad car window that night, he couldn't shake one thought. There was something in Berkowitz's eyes, something empty yet calculating, like he wanted to be caught. And when they asked him why he did it, his answer left the room frozen in silence. "The dog told me to," Berkowitz said. "Sam's dog. He ordered me to kill." Detective Coffey looked around the room, trying to process what he'd just heard. "Sam's dog?" he repeated slowly. Berkowitz nodded. "He spoke to me through the dog. The dog is possessed." The detective stepped out, gripping his cigarette tighter than ever. "This guy's either insane," he muttered, "or he's the best liar in New York." But when they searched his apartment, what they found on the walls would change everything. You haven't seen anything yet. Subscribe before you lose your nerve, because this story only gets darker. The door to apartment 7E creaked open. A stale mix of sweat, dust, and decay seeped into the hallway as detectives stepped inside David Berkowitz's Yonkers home. Flashlights cut through the dimness, sweeping over yellowed walls scribbled with rambling notes and cryptic phrases. Words like, "Thy father Sam lives," and "Go out and kill," were scrawled in thick black marker across the plaster. On the kitchen counter sat a pile of crumpled letters, drafts of his infamous Son of Sam notes, each one dripping with mockery and madness. In one, he referred to himself as a monster trapped in human form. In another, he described his neighbor's black Labrador as the vessel of the devil. Detective Coffey stood silently in the middle of the small, cluttered room. "He wasn't lying about the voices," he said quietly, scanning the mess. "But what if it wasn't about demons at all?" Over the next several days, investigators pieced together the life of the man who had paralyzed New York City with fear. Born in 1953, Berkowitz was adopted as an infant by a middle-aged Bronx couple. By all accounts, his childhood was lonely but stable, until his adoptive mother passed away when he was just 14. Friends remembered the shift immediately. He became withdrawn, obsessed with death, and angry at the world. As a teenager, he set fires across the neighborhood for fun. By adulthood, he joined the U.S. Army, hoping for discipline. But after his service, he returned to New York, drifting from job to job, more isolated than ever. He eventually bought a small apartment in Yonkers and started working nights as a postal clerk. But isolation wasn't the only thing growing inside him. Something was festering. A belief that unseen forces were guiding his every move. And that's when he met Sam. Police records later showed that Sam referred to his neighbor, Sam Carr, a retired man who lived a few doors down. Berkowitz believed Carr's dog, Harvey, was possessed, that it barked commands from the devil himself. Berkowitz claimed he tried to resist at first, but that the voices became unbearable. He said they ordered him to hunt, to kill, to serve the blood of the innocent. The detectives, skeptical but curious, brought in psychiatrists to assess his state of mind. Their findings were conflicted. Some saw deep psychosis. Others saw a manipulative, intelligent man who knew exactly what he was doing. But while doctors debated, the public wanted closure, and the press wanted a story. Newspapers flooded front pages with photos of Berkowitz smiling in custody, eyes blank but confident. "The son of Sam captured," screamed one headline. But the tone of fear hadn't faded. Instead, it evolved, from panic to fascination. Who was this man who turned the city into a nightmare? Why did he seem almost proud? During interrogation, Berkowitz's tone swung between calm explanation and eerie laughter. He confessed to 8 shootings, describing the victims and locations in exact detail. When asked why he targeted young women, he shrugged and said, "Because they looked happy, and I wasn't." It was a simple answer, and somehow, that made it worse. In his apartment, detectives also found maps of New York's boroughs, with red dots marking each crime scene. Each circle was neat, organized, deliberate, as if the city had been his chessboard. Coffey looked at it and muttered, "He planned this like a soldier." And yet, beneath the logic, there was chaos. A storm of delusion and fantasy that blurred the line between reality and imagination. Berkowitz claimed that Sam was not just a man, but a spirit. He described it as a being that moved through the city's sewers, whispering to the lost and angry. "He's always been there," Berkowitz said in one of his interviews. "H is eyes unfocused. He speaks through the dogs. He tells us what must be done." Despite the absurdity, the idea terrified the public. Rumors spread that Berkowitz was part of a cult, a network of satanic followers that operated across the city. Police quietly investigated the theory, but found nothing concrete. Still, the whispers persisted. Meanwhile, detectives pored over the Son of Sam letters again, this time looking for patterns. Linguistic experts noted inconsistencies, changes in tone, punctuation, and spelling that didn't fit one man's handwriting habits. "It's almost like more than one person wrote these," one analyst said. Coffey leaned forward. "So maybe he wasn't alone." The idea changed everything. Could there have been others? Copycats? Accomplices? The case, once neatly tied with Berkowitz's arrest, began to unravel again. But the DA's office had no interest in reopening the wound. New York wanted peace, not more chaos. "We got him," they said. "The city can breathe again." Still, for those who worked the case, something felt unfinished. When Berkowitz's trial began in 1978, the courtroom was packed wall to wall. Reporters, families of victims, curious onlookers, all crammed into the gallery to watch the man who'd haunted their nights. As the charges were read, 6 counts of murder, 7 of attempted murder, Berkowitz sat calmly, smiling faintly. Occasionally, he whispered to himself or to someone no one else could see. At one point, he interrupted proceedings, shouting, "I am the Son of Sam!" before breaking into a fit of laughter. The courtroom froze. The judge quickly ordered silence. "Mr. Berkowitz," he said sternly, "you will be held in contempt if you continue this behavior." Berkowitz only grinned wider. "Sam doesn't like the lies," he said. "He's here. He's listening." Psychiatrists called it delusion. Prosecutors called it manipulation. But whatever it was, it had the audience spellbound. Then came the moment that would shock everyone. On the third day of the trial, Berkowitz suddenly changed his plea to guilty. All counts. He waived his right to trial, claiming God told him to confess. When the judge asked if he understood that his plea would send him to life in prison, he replied, "I know, but the demons will follow me anyway." The courtroom fell into stunned silence. As he was led out in handcuffs, he looked back toward the gallery and said softly, "There are others out there. You'll see." Detective Coffey stared at him from the back row, his gut twisting. What did he mean? Others. And if he was telling the truth, was the Son of Sam story truly over? Or had it just begun? If you're still watching, you've got guts. But before this ends, hit subscribe, because what you're about to hear will haunt you long after this video stops. Years had passed since the Summer of Fear. David Berkowitz, the son of Sam, sat behind the high gray walls of Attica Correctional Facility, serving 6 consecutive life sentences. The streets of New York had moved on. The city had cleaned itself up, crime rates began to fall, and disco clubs had replaced the fear that once ruled its nights. But for the detectives who lived the case, something about Berkowitz's final words, "There are others out there," never stopped echoing. Detective Joe Coffey, now older, still couldn't shake it. He'd sit at his desk flipping through case files, staring at maps dotted with red ink, the sites of the shootings. Something about the timing, the letters, the handwriting, none of it lined up as neatly as prosecutors had claimed. And the more Coffey dug, the more he realized how many unanswered questions lingered. Who wrote the first Son of Sam letter? And who wrote the second? Why were some of the crime scenes inconsistent with Berkowitz's description? And why did he confess so easily, as if he wanted the case to close? Meanwhile, Berkowitz sat quietly in his prison cell. At first, he played the role of the unrepentant killer, smiling for cameras, giving strange interviews, occasionally talking about demons. But then, in the mid-1980s, something changed. He withdrew from the media completely. No more interviews, no more letters, just silence. Then one day, in 1987, he wrote a letter, not to a newspaper this time, but to a Christian radio host. In it, he claimed to have found God, and was now no longer the son of Sam, but the son of hope. The letter caught attention nationwide, but what truly shook people wasn't his religious conversion. It was what came after. Berkowitz began hinting that he hadn't acted alone. In one written confession to a journalist, he stated that several of the shootings were carried out by other members of a satanic cult he had joined before the murders. "I didn't do everything," he wrote. "There were others. We were part of something much larger." He described rituals in Yonkers, meetings in abandoned buildings, and coded symbols hidden in the Son of Sam letters. According to Berkowitz, the cult wasn't about demons or talking dogs. It was about control, chaos, and fear. For the NYPD, it was explosive. For journalists, it was sensational. But for the families of the victims, it reopened wounds they'd fought to close. Could it be true? Detective Coffey was skeptical, but also curious. He went back over the ballistic reports. In 2 shootings, the bullets didn't match Berkowitz's revolver. The style of writing in the letters differed. Witness descriptions varied. One suspect even described seeing 2 men at a scene. And then there was the name Sam. Investigators discovered that Berkowitz's neighbor, Sam Carr, the man he claimed was the demon, actually had 2 sons, John and Michael Carr. Both men were known locally for their erratic behavior, and Michael had been linked to fringe occult groups before his death in a car accident in 1979. Was Son of Sam not just a name, but a literal reference? Some journalists thought so. Others dismissed it as coincidence. The police, eager to keep the public calm, refused to reopen the case. The official record stayed clear. Berkowitz acted alone. But rumors wouldn't die. In the 1990s, a wave of investigative documentaries reignited interest in the case. Former NYPD officers, journalists, and even FBI profilers began to question the single-shooter narrative. They interviewed Berkowitz from prison, where he continued to suggest that the real story had never been told. "You think I'm the whole story?" he said in one taped conversation. "No, I was the face, but there were others who wanted the city to burn." To this day, those words remain unverified, chilling but impossible to prove. Inside prison, Berkowitz changed completely. He became soft-spoken, polite, and deeply religious. He ran Bible study groups, wrote letters of apology to victims' families, and refused parole hearings. "I don't deserve freedom," he told the board. "6 people are dead because of me. That's my punishment." But even redemption couldn't erase the questions that haunted the case. In 2002, a retired detective revisited the original Son of Sam files and noted several inconsistencies: differing bullet trajectories, varying calibers, and witness sketches that looked nothing like Berkowitz. He presented his findings in a book, claiming at least 3 shooters may have been involved. Berkowitz himself refused to clarify. "I said my piece," he wrote in one of his last public letters. "The rest is for God to reveal." For the people of New York, the Son of Sam case became more than just a crime. It became a mirror reflecting the fear and uncertainty of an entire era. It represented how quickly chaos could consume a city, and how a single man, or perhaps several, could manipulate millions through fear alone. Today, more than 4 decades later, the questions remain. Was David Berkowitz truly the lone gunman who terrorized the city from the shadows of parked cars? Or was he just the messenger for something much darker? A network that thrived on the chaos of the 1970s? One thing is certain: his crimes changed how New York lived, loved, and feared. And on quiet summer nights, when the streets grow still and the city lights flicker, people still whisper his name, not out of admiration, but as a reminder of what happens when evil walks unseen. David Berkowitz remains behind bars today, serving 6 consecutive life sentences. He is now 70 years old, a quiet man who reads his Bible and writes to those who still believe he's hiding something. And maybe he is. Because some stories never end, they just wait in the dark. If you made it this far, congratulations. You've survived New York's summer of fear. But the next story, you might not sleep after that one. So subscribe before the next nightmare begins.